Talk to you about valuing your business. My objectives today are to get you thinking about what makes a business valuable, a little bit to provide a lens through which to consider exit strategies, although when I tried to do that when I was speaking to Northampton, I overran, so we've probably skipped past that bit. But consider what buyers are looking for when they buy a business, and also hopefully possibly get you to take one small step in terms of considering what a business might be worth, even if at the end of it you decide, no, that's not for me, I'm just going to close my business down one day. That's my exit strategy. I like to start every talk that I do with a quote, and today I'm going to start with a quote by Seneca the Younger. And Seneca the Younger, by the look of him, you might gather is from Rome.
We haven't got we can't see your screen.
You're not seeing my screen?
No, if it's up.
Ah, right. That's, where am I? Let's go back again.
In your own home.
In a safe place.
And yes, in a safe place.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
That's better.
And now I will start it again from the beginning and then just skip by. So that's my opening. These are my objectives, which I've talked about, which I'm not going to read through again because I've already read them through once. And now I'm going to give you a picture of Seneca the Younger. You'll recognize him because I believe he was in lockdown at least 3 times, possibly 4. And that's a bit how I feel on some days. So Seneca the Younger said, you must know which harbour you're headed for if you're to catch the right wing to take you there. In 2020 something, Stephen Covey said something similar, which was to begin with the end in mind. And that's something I quote in my book, which, by the way, at the end of this, if anyone is interested in a copy of my book on how to value your business, just drop me a line or contact me on LinkedIn. I'll be very happy to let you have a PDF copy. I can empathize with Seneca, as I said, but I look around the screen and I think you're all thinking to yourself, well, I'm here to build my business. I'm here to get sales. I'm not going to sell my business. Why are you even talking to me about it? Well, first of all, this is networking. So you know somebody, either a member of family or a client, or somebody you will know who is blissfully ignoring the fact that one day they're going to exit their business and they haven't got a strategy whatsoever. And secondly, I'm going to introduce you to Eric here. Eric built his own car and he also didn't have a plan. He also didn't consider the end in mind, but Eric loves his car. He thinks it goes really well, but my question is, would you buy it? So for a business, what I'm saying to people is, don't wait until it's too late. As I say, I mean, my introduction to start off with, I go to loads of businesses who never end up selling their businesses, or business owners who never end up selling their business because they leave it too late. And something happens along the way, be it death, disability, disaster, divorce, disagreement, and disruption. And in the last 8 years, I've come across all of those where suddenly...
Yeah, of course. I'll sit here.
Where somebody wants to sell a business, and I've come across a lot of 4s, I've come a lot of 5s, and of course we've all come across a lot of 3 over the past 12 months or so. Another problem is what I call the owner's trap. Somebody caught in the business and they are the business and they can't do anything about it. So if you're thinking about valuing, what do buyers want? Buyers want customers. They want a track record of cash flow, profits maybe, but cash flow is more important than profits. Intellectual property, which could be trademarks, patents, copyrights, or branding. They want your processes, your people, your location. And they're also going to be asking themselves, is it a business or is it a job? And a lot of self-employed businesses are just that. They are just self-employed jobs. But don't rule out the fact that that is unsellable. A self-employed job might still be sellable if you've got customers, track record of the cash flow, some sort of branding, some sort of good location. So it might still be sellable, maybe not as much as a valuable business, but it still could be sellable. So how do you value a business? Let's take a step back and consider something that I think you all might have thought about, even if you don't own a house at the moment, which is how do you value a house? And I would submit to you there are 3 ways to value a house. And I'm just kind of switch this off and cough a minute. The first way to value a house is to consider the cost of the land, consider the building costs, consider everything that goes into the building a house, and you come to a cost. You add a bit of profit, and that's the cost of valuing a house, or one way of valuing a house. That's the way a builder or a developer would value a house, and hopefully that cost then equates with what somebody's prepared to pay for it. The second way to value a house is to look at comparatives. So 3-bedroom house in a certain estate, there's going to be other 3-bedroom houses. What are they sold for? What are they up for sale for? So it's comparatives. The third way to value a house is to consider the investment value of the house. So if you buy a house and then let it, let's say you let it for £1,000 a month, that house is producing you £12,000 a month gross income. And that £12,000 a month income you can equate back to a capital value by considering what the investment percentage you would want on a house. So if it was, let's say, 10% you wanted on it, the house valued at would value at £120,000 being £12,000 per annum. In fact, houses are more like 5% because it's considered a relatively low value investment. Sorry, a relatively low return investment. So 5% on £12,000 per annum would give you 20 times 5%, in other words, to £240,000 value. Moving on to value in a business, it's obvious there are more variables. This is a business that I valued. It's a restaurant. It's in East London. I kind of don't really like selling restaurants because they're really hard to sell, and there's a good reason for it, which I'll come back to. But how do you value a business? Well, you've got the same basic ways to value a business. So this is a restaurant. You can consider that you can get yourself a property, either renting it or buying it. You then equip the property. You put the flooring and the ceiling and the chairs and the tables and, more importantly, the kitchen. And if you equip a restaurant, it's going to cost you £120,000. It can cost you anything up to £250,000. But that's one way of valuing a business is how much does it cost to set it up? And then, of course, the other costs associated with getting a restaurant to making it profitable are the cost of marketing it, any losses that you incur until such time as it making profitable. But that's one cost. Another way for valuing a restaurant is to look for comparatives. So there are sites in the same way that houses sell on Rightmove, there are sites for selling businesses, Dalton's being one, businesses for sale being another. So you can look for similar restaurants doing 5,000 a week, 10,000 a week, and what are they selling for? So that's another comparative. And the third way is the same as a house, it's the investment value of a business. So if that business is producing £100,000 profit a year for somebody that's running it, then that £100,000 profit has an investment value. Now, for a house, I said the investment value was maybe 5%. For a business, and particularly for a restaurant, it's a much, much, much higher investment value. And in fact, you probably, for a restaurant, be lucky to get 1 or 2 times profits. For a house, as I said, 20 times. For a business, 1 or 2 times, but maybe up as high as 5 times, or if it's a very large business and it's thriving, maybe up to 10 times. So that's basic way to value a business. However, when I go to visit businesses who want their business value, what do I get? 3 times profits. Everybody thinks their business is worth 3 times profits or maybe 5 times profits. But the reality is there's a huge spread of valuations, and 3 times profits is about as naive as assuming every house is worth £250,000, or every house is worth, every 3-bedroom house is worth £250,000, every 4-bedroom house is worth £400,000. It's kind of naive and it doesn't really get you there. When I value a business, I look at 7 elements of the business. The middle one, as you can see, the light blue one there, is the financial performance. In other words, the profit. But as I also just mentioned to you, on the left-hand side, I'm talking about cash flow, because it's far more important how much cash your business produces than how much profit you produce. If, for example, you grow your business, and every time you grow your business, you've got to put another £50,000 into stock, or you've got to buy another premises, or you've got to take on more overheads, then that you might be making profit, but you're not making cash. So that's important. Growth potential is important. Business dependence. So if you've only got 2 or 3 customers, or if you've got one member of staff that you're really dependent upon, or if you've got one supplier, maybe who's in Europe and you're importing from the EU and you're very dependent upon them, these sort of things will affect the business valuation. The value proposition, so your branding, how unique your business is. Are you just another new Me Too business, or are you a business that has something different to offer for people? How satisfied are your customers? By the way, that one, everybody always measures very highly on it, but there is a reality as to how, and there are ways of measuring how satisfied your customers are. And finally, management. Have you got a management team, or is it your business and it's you? Because if I'm going to try and sell you as well as your business, that's going to make my job somewhat tricky, and your future somewhat miserable if you've got to go with a business that you're trying to sell. But if you've got a team in place, if you can go on holiday for 3 months and come back and your business is still running, then you know you've got not just a really nice business, but a really valuable business. And that's basically it. I look at the 7 ways of valuing a business, I add them all together, I apportion every one of them a number, and I then get to the business multiple, which may be 3 times, it may be 5 times if you're scoring very heavily on those, but more likely if it's a restaurant or if it's a lifestyle business, 1 or 2 times profits, which at the end of the day is better than having not selling your business at all. What I try and do is to try and talk to everybody and say, what are your exit objectives? If your exit objectives are to leave it to your children, and I can sense a couple of people don't want to do that in this group. If it's, I'm going to just close it down, those are fine, those are exit objectives. But if it's that my business is going to form a part of my retirement pension pot, then I'm sure not just Mark, but me is going to be saying it's something you really should consider earlier on. And then how much is tied up in it? How much of your pension pot is tied up in your business? Is it a large element? Is it a small element? The amount tied up is going to be different for everybody, but it's something you should consider. And then have a plan. Consider what your options are for selling. Do you want to sell it yourself? Do you want to sell it through the likes of me? Or do you want to sell it through a business broker who is going to go out and find your potential buyers for you? Or are you going to sell it through your accountant? And finally, prepare for the unexpected.